If you've saved between $2 and $5 million for retirement, you actually have a harder retirement ahead of you than the person who saved $1 million. Now, I know how that sounds, but I sat across from a 67-year-old retired engineer last month. $3.2 million saved. He did everything right his entire career. He's now paying $34,000 more in taxes than he paid during his last year of work because the tax code wasn't built for him. My team sees this every week. Saving the money was the first half of the problem. Pulling it out without handing half of it back to the IRS, that's the half nobody taught you. In the next 8 minutes, I'm going to show you exactly how this happens, what it costs, and the 3 things you have to do before the window closes. Because at your asset level, the window is shorter than you think. I'm Ryan Knoll. I run Nav Wealth. We work almost exclusively with people in the $2 to $10 million range, which is why we obsess over this exact window. Here's how the next 8 minutes break down. 2 problems that only show up at your asset level, what each one actually costs in dollars. Then 3 moves you have to make in the next 18 months to get ahead of them. Problem 1 is the one that creates everything else. It's called the coordination problem, and here's what it is. If you've saved $1 million, you probably have 3 or 4 places the money lives. A 401k, a Roth, a brokerage, and Social Security. The balances are small enough that the tax code gives you room. Pull too much from the 401k in a given year, it might nudge your bracket. It probably doesn't trigger IRMA. It probably doesn't turn your 0% capital gains rate into a 15% capital gains rate. There's slack in that system. At $3 million, that slack is gone. You have 6 places the money lives: the 401k, the Roth, the brokerage account, Social Security, and if you've earned your way there, you probably have deferred comp invested equity on top of that. Every withdrawal decision in one account changes the tax bill on all of the others. Pull too much from the 401k in your first year of retirement, and you do 3 things at once. You push yourself into a higher bracket, you trigger IRMA Medicare surcharges, and make 85% of your Social Security taxable. 1 decision, 3 penalties in the same exact year. The person with $1 million has room to make a couple of wrong moves. You don't. And the default retirement plan most people show up with treats each of these 6 accounts as a separate question. That gap between what the accounts actually are and how they get managed is where the engineer's $34,000 in taxes lives. But the coordination problem has a saving grace. Every year you get to adjust. New tax year, new decisions, new chances to get it right. The next problem doesn't work that way. There are decisions on the runway to retirement that you make exactly once, without any do-overs. And unlike a bad investment, you can't wait for the market to come back to bail you out. The decision is made, and the dollars are gone. At your asset level, the cost of getting any of these wrong is 6 figures or more, and that's permanent. There's 3 of them you need to look out for. First is Roth conversions. There's a window between when you stop working and when RMDs kick in, which is usually 7 to 10 years long, when you can move money out of your traditional 401k into a Roth at a tax rate you control. Once that window closes, it closes. The IRS calculates your RMD as a percentage of your 401k balance every year for the rest of your life. Miss the window, and you're forcing $100,000, $120,000, or even $150,000 a year onto your tax return at rates the government sets, not you. The engineer I told you about, his window had been open for 9 years before he sat down with us. He didn't know it existed, and by the time we met, it had closed 3 years earlier. There was nothing left to do. Second is Social Security timing. You can claim at 62 or wait until 70. The difference between the right call and the wrong call for someone in your situation is usually around $180,000 in lifetime benefits, sometimes more. And the reason it's hard to get right at $3 million is that the optimal claiming age depends on what your portfolio looks like, what your spouse's benefit is, what your tax bracket is going to be in your 60s, and what your health history says about your odds of making it past 80. 6 factors all go into one date. No going back. Then the third is your one-time payout election, pensions, deferred comp distribution, lump sum versus annuity, concentrated stock exit. If you've got any of these, and at $3 million, you almost certainly have at least one, you're choosing once. Higher payment now and your spouse loses it when you die, or a lower payment that protects them. Lump sum and you control the money, or a stream and you've got guaranteed income. The wrong answer, based on your health, your spouse's age, your assets, your tax projection, costs a surviving spouse $200,000 to $400,000 over a 20-year retirement from a single signature. The person with $1 million doesn't have most of these decisions. There's no deferred comp. The Roth conversion math doesn't move the needle. Social Security matters, but it's not interacting with everything else. More money doesn't just mean more decisions. It means more decisions you can never undo. Which brings us to the part that genuinely shocks people when I put the numbers in front of them. Now, a quick note before we get to the moves. If at any point in the next 2 minutes you're thinking, this applies to me, I want someone to actually run these numbers for my situation, there's a link in the description to book a call with my team. I'll come back to it, but for now let's cover the 3 moves. So the 3 moves are specific to your asset level. The first one is to project your RMDs at 73, 75, and 80, and do it today, not the year you retire, today. We built a free calculator for exactly this. It's called the RMD Time Bomb Calculator. Plug in your 401k balance and your age. It shows you what the IRS is going to force out of you at 73, 75, 80, and what bracket each one lands you in. The link is in the description. Go play around with it. And here's the deal. If the number on the screen makes you uncomfortable, that's the moment to book a call. Because seeing the number isn't the hard part. Knowing what to do about it is. The second factor, model your Roth conversion window this year. The window between when you stop working and when RMDs hit at 73 is typically 7 to 10 years. For most of you, it's the only window you'll ever have to move money from pre-tax into tax-free at a rate below 25%. My engineer's window had been open for 9 years before he sat down with us. He didn't know what a Roth conversion was. By the time he did, it had been closed for 3 years. There was nothing left to undo. If you're inside the window right now, even if you're not sure you are, someone needs to model it this month. And then the third factor, get your CPA, your advisor, and your estate attorney in the same room or on the same Zoom call, or hire one firm that covers all 3 areas. The most expensive mistake I see at $3 million is 3 professionals, each solving a third of the problem. Your 401k decision affects Social Security. Social Security affects Medicare. Medicare affects withdrawal sequencing, and sequencing affects your estate. It's one problem. It needs one conversation, not 3 different invoices. The complexity of your retirement is not the problem. It's a reflection of how well you've saved. But complexity unmanaged is expensive, and at your asset level, expensive means permanent. Which brings me back to knowing what to do about it. Here's the offer. If you're 55 to 67 with $2 million or more saved, book a retirement readiness review with my team. The link is in the description. 30 minutes, we pull your specific numbers. Your RMD at 73, 75, and 80. Your bracket exposure, your Roth conversion window, and your Social Security timing math. You walk away with the review in writing whether you ever work with my firm or not. We take 10 of these a week because each one is custom to the person sitting across from us. If that's you, grab a slot before this week's are gone. And if this video gave you something to think about, send it to someone in the same boat. This is the stuff that doesn't come up at the water cooler, because the smartest thing you can do with $3 million is make sure every decision is the right one, once. See you next week.